Welcome to TXAPA Live. Jim Warren here in the TXAPA studio. Glad to have everybody here today. So if you go to our safety share today, we'll go ahead and I'll walk you through that. If you go to texasasphalt.org, click on resources and then click on safety share, you will be exposed to all our safety shares that we have out there. And you can use these in your own company. You can use them however you like. We just want to get them out there. So today's safety share is protecting your hearing health. Oops, dropping stuff over here. Whether you are out on the road working with loud asphalt pavers or listening to a TXAPA video on your computer, it's always a good idea to be aware of the volume of the sounds around you. Approximately 15% of Americans have noise-induced hearing loss because of loud work or leisure environments. Take a moment to check your sound levels and follow these easy steps to protect your ears and hearing health. Number one, turn down the volume. According to World Health Organization, 1.1 billion teens and adults worldwide are at a risk for noise-induced hearing loss from the unsafe use of audio devices. When using headphones or earbuds, follow the 60-60 rule. This suggests listening with headphones at no more than 60% volume for no more than 60 minutes a day. Keep in mind your earbuds naturally increase the volume by about 9 decibels, which is a huge number. So because they sit inside your ears. Headphones are always a safer choice as they produce less natural amplification. Use earplugs regularly for number 2. When using machinery that is so loud you must shout to the person next to you to be heard, it is time to put earplugs in. Loud sounds are classified as higher than 85 decibels. A jackhammer, for example, is 130. At 120 dB, permanent hearing loss can occur with just 1 hour of exposure. Once your hearing is damaged, it's gone. Areas where you would expect to see ear protection notices include grinding operations, woodworking, saws, compressors, conveyors, around machinery, and where employees are within a 15-foot radius. Number 3, maintain your ear health with good practices. A healthy eardrum starts with a healthy ear canal. Contrary to popular belief, it's not recommended to use cotton swabs to clean wax from your ears. Use an ear removal solution instead and wipe your ears after showering with a towel. Keeping your ears healthy and dry will prevent bacterial infections such as swimmer's ear, which can damage your hearing. Stay healthy. Did you know that exercise is good for your ears? Cardio exercises can get the blood pumping to all parts of your body, including your ears. This helps keep your eardrums healthy and work to their maximum potential. Getting plenty of rest and quiet time is essential for ear recovery to prevent hearing loss. Researchers have found that your ears need an average of 16 hours of quiet to recover from one loud night. October is National Hearing Protection Month. Follow these safety tips to prevent loss and keep your ears healthy. Even though it's November, it's still important. So again, like you said, you only got 2, and if you blow them out, they're gone. So we need to be careful out there. Okay, pick up my stuff here. Oops, don't want to do that. Hang on a second. Almost shut the webinar off. Well, that would be a bad time to do that, wouldn't it, Corey? All right, today is part 2 of our QC/QA panel, Roadmap for Success. We're talking about the Roadway. Today we've got Jose Mata. He's the QC manager from CSA Materials out St. Angelo. Brett Haggerty, the general manager for San Antonio for PaveTex, is with us today. And Bruce Spracklen, Beyond Engineering and Testing, he's the VP of Business Development. And Corey Schwarz will be your moderator today. He's the director of the HMA Training and Hearing Center. There we go. Hello, guys. Welcome to the program today.
The reality for me is that there is an incredible amount of activity that contractors are putting into trying to make sure the mix is right. And there's so many things that they're trying to monitor, from how many haul trucks do I have? How far is the haul distance? How much material do I got to put down? What's the temperature outside? How many guys do I have out here? You know, there's a lot that they're trying to keep track of to make sure that mix goes down right. And for me, one of the biggest things that we can get from when being on the job is helping to monitor that and have that open communication with the contractor. You know, keeping track of things if the paver stops, if there's thermal segregation, visual segregation, are there issues with the rolling operations? Letting the contractor know are critical, as opposed to just standing around watching things happen. It's more than just trying to identify random core locations. It's being proactive on the job. So if I hear that from 1B, it says that their job is just to watch things. I feel like they're missing one of the most vital roles on a paving crew.
I totally agree with Brett. I mean, if sometimes we get in a hurry or we're not doing it right, at least we have another set of eyes to tell us, hey, I don't think you're doing it right, or you missed the area over here. But if you're not certified and you don't know how to run the test, I mean, how are you gonna tell the contractor this is wrong, or, you know, or proof? I mean, how? Just go check the contractor, double check, like Brett said, you know.
Yeah, I'd tend to agree. You know, it's I think the 1B certification is important. I think there's more to inspecting asphalt than that, than what the 1B certification has, such as straight edging joints every day. Looking to make sure the tax broke. You know, those are things that aren't in the 1B certification. You know, I personally feel like I'd really like to see a inspection certification program developed by TXAPA for that, and 1B being included. But that's just my thoughts.
You know, Chuck Fuller and myself were talking the other day about this exact question. And one of the things we were talking about is he brought up is when you have QC and you have QA and they're performing their job and they're doing it right, it's just going to create a quality project, and you're going to have, you know, more bonus, smoother ride, and it's just going to be a better project. Jim, I don't know if you can hear us right now, but Bruce kind of brought up the inspector training program that you've been kind of working on. Is there any updates on that?
Yeah, the plan right now, so I got the audio problem fixed. We did not get the first part with you guys talking about your favorite Thanksgiving
Don't
part,
think
but
Jim can hear us.
we've got that sorted out. You can't hear me?
So we'll move on to the next question. Jim, do you mind pulling that one up?
There we go.
Question 2, is there a process or system you use to match more experienced QA QC technicians with less experienced QC QA technicians? So kind of vice versa in those scenarios. And how do you get an inexperienced level 1B trained up as quickly as you can? Jose, you want to start off on that one?
Well, on that, to be honest, it's kind of hard sometimes to, because like we're talking about, a lot of people nowadays are not used to doing all the testing because we have the thermal imaging system and all that. So nowadays we try to do at least one, even if we have the thermal imaging system, to do the test ourselves, just to be trained up to speed on how it's done. Mm-hmm. And yes, sometimes we like to call a textile inspector or CAI just to show them if we're doing it right, or if they have any questions, or, you know, just for them to be along with us and prove to them that we're doing it right. But yes, sometimes it's hard, you know, to get enough experience with all this, because a lot of these tests don't require you have the thermal imaging system not to do it, you know. So
you don't have to run the mass segregation or the thermal profile and those type of things. Yes.
Yeah, those guys that Jose is talking about. I mean, for me, there is really completely different expectations from a guy that's doing QC 1B versus a guy that's doing QA 1B. And just when we're looking at it from our side, PaveTex, whenever we're asked to do QC 1B, we never send somebody out that's fairly green and only done QA side, because there's a lot more that comes with it on the QC side. Setting up the rolling patterns, understanding what rollers you have out there, excuse me, the temperature of the mat, that stuff comes with experience. And those guys got to know what they're doing when they're doing QC. And exactly like Jose was talking about, trying to set up that training program before we cut somebody loose, it can be tough. But really what we try to do on our side is that we like to try and target a minimum of 2 weeks to have the greener, younger QA guys shadowing the experienced 1B guy, even before we send them to TXAPA. We want to make sure that they understand just general things, right? How do you find the random core locations on your own without having to try and put it into a computer? Even trying to help, exactly like Bruce was talking about, the elements that don't get covered at TXAPA that are critical. Yield is a really important thing for not just the contractor, for TxDOT as well. So at least on our side, we try to look at least 2 weeks even before they get certified, make sure they're prepared for it.
So it's more of an internal thing than what you're saying then, Brett, right? You don't try to pair them up. Let's say you and Jose are in the same same area. You wouldn't try to pair an inexperienced person with Jose and their experience.
Yeah. And the reason why I say that is because there's differences between talking about it or viewing it in a book and actually seeing it on the road as it's being built. So we're really trying to find those opportunities when it's being placed to have that experienced guy out there alongside someone that can shadow him, to understand what's going on out in the field. What for? What does certain type of segregation look like? Is it an end type of segregation? Is it nice and consistent on one side of the mat? Those are the good opportunities that we try to look for, which makes it a little bit more nebulous than just saying, hey, we're going to pair you up with John Doe for the next 2 weeks because we're not sure if that's when construction's going. It's more of when do we have the opportunity to get somebody out so that they can learn.
Yeah, and I mean, I agree with all that. And, you know, one of the things we look at as well, especially with hot mix, whether it's at the plant or in the field, is what type of mix is it? That's pretty important too. You know, if it's PSC or SMA or TOM, you know, are they familiar with those specifications and what the requirements are there? You know, an SMA, laying an SMA and a dense grade 341 type D, those are completely different animals. And, you know, very much like Brett said, you know, especially from the QC side, from a consultant, there's so much that goes into the QC work as far as setting rolling patterns, understanding that, you know, if you see a line in the mat that's longitudinal, you know, that's at the exact same distance as the extensions coming into the paver, that they probably got an extension angle out, you know, out of whack, and they're going to get an 89 on the low side of that, and on the high side they may get passing numbers. That doesn't mean that 89 is a wrong number. It means that they need to, you know, adjust the extension angle. But, you know, that takes years, and that takes a lot of just being with that same crew and everybody having the trust for one another and being able, you know, to make those types of decisions that are very important for the contractor to have trust in you on.
Mm-hmm. That makes me think of partnering. I mean, you really want to have two individuals, the contractor and the state employee or representative, really kind of walking that job together all the time. I think you said that a while ago, Brett, is don't just sit in the truck, kind of get out, make sure you're moving along the job and those type of things.
And you're right, Corey, because partnering is a big deal here, because a lot of people, a lot of contractors are not up to date on all the new specifications, changes on the 1Bs. I mean, 1B is real. I mean, the 1B has a lot of authorization out there in the field that a lot of people don't know that, you know.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Hey, Jim, we did ask the previous question. Bruce was talking about the inspector development program that you've been working on.
Yes.
Is there any status update on that?
Yeah, thank you. She started talking, and I was like, oh no, we're having one of those gremlin days. Yeah, we are working on getting this new program up and running. As part of the Asphalt Pavement Quality Initiative program, we are in the midst of developing a inspector course, and that will get that kicked off early next year, hopefully January. And what we're going to be doing is a little bit different, again, because of COVID and all the training limitations that we've got. We're going to be doing kind of a hybrid online training, both consisting of using a learning management system, which is something that Corey's working on with his group over there, and we're working on one over here, and including both lectures, 2-hour lectures, twice a week for 3 weeks, plus homework. And so we're going to actually be kicking this program off soon, and hopefully you'll be seeing registration information come out here shortly on that, so you'll be able to do that. And so we're targeting inspectors, and we're going to be using the inspector development program, which has got a lot of information in there about what an inspector is supposed to know and supposed to be able to do, and melding that with actual practical information like the things that Bruce was talking about is when you're actually out on the grade looking at something, what should you be seeing and what is good practice and what's bad practice. And so we really want to get people up to speed as quickly, condense that cycle of learning, and improve that experience as quickly as we can. You know, nothing replaces experience, right, Bruce? And you guys know that, have been around a long time, but there's a lot of anecdotes, there's a lot of information out there that we can help maybe speed up the curve just a little bit. So that's what we'll be doing. We'll be producing it, marketing it widely, so hopefully you'll see it in the next month, and we look forward to seeing you guys in January. But it's aimed at inspectors, so both DOT, consultant, etc. But I'm sure it's all be open to everybody. But our target audience is trying to shoot for the inspectors with this first course.
Hey, Jim, is that specific to hot mix, or would that cover seal coat as well?
That's a great question. This course is going to be specific to hot mix. We're not going to cover seal coat with this course. I believe that they are working on some additional, I think John Epps and his group are working on some additional efforts there. There's been seal coat workshops, programs developed. We hosted one here back in, I think it was January, and it was very well attended and is a good product. So we need to maybe figure out a way of delivering that maybe a little bit differently. But this, to answer your question, Brett, this is specifically oriented towards hot mix.
I think it's important to, like we talk about sometimes that a level 1B is the inspector. Really, there's an inspector, and level 1B is just part of his job, correct? Is that how y'all see that?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes just because you're 1B doesn't mean you have all that experience, and that's why that partnership and mentorship is so important. So we'll move on to the next question. And
yeah, this one isn't going to pop up, but somehow it dropped off on the PowerPoint. But here's a question to you guys and to everybody. What does the contractor do if there's no inspector on that job for maybe that day? So what does the contractor do as far as his operation if there's no inspector on that job?
To be honest, we haven't had that problem in a long time. But if we would have that problem, we normally would make a phone call to them first to see where they're at and let them know, hey, we're fixing to start. And if he's an hour away or so, we'll go ahead and start, because we're going to do the best job out there, because it's going to be our reputation on the line regardless he's there or not. You know, so we're always going to do the best to, you know, for TXAPA to give them the best quality mix out there. So
yeah,
I think the specification even covers it. And Brad, I think you could probably speak on this more intelligently than I can. You know, I think specification, I think it's item 6, controller work. Is that right, Brad?
Yeah,
where, you know, it says that, you know, just because an inspector's not on site does not alleviate, you know, the contractor from providing quality work. Just like Jose said, I think the communication is very important, because we don't know if maybe that inspector's on the road, especially out, you know, in the remote areas, you know, in the oil patch, you know, might have gotten hit, you know, so it might, you know, it's good to communicate saying, hey, inspector's not here. Is he going to be here? You know, and if not, then, you know, Jose then, you know, is going to communicate to his guys like, hey, you know, look, we lost a set of eyes that are valuable to the partnering and quality on this project. So make sure you guys are on it and very transparent with everything that you've got, you know, when they do show up, you know. So that's what I have to say, Brett.
No, you hit the nail on the head right there, Bruce. The hard part, so if the contractor gets clearance to roll, And, you know, the last thing any owner wants to do is prevent the contractor from moving forward when it's their own fault. But if the contractor gets to move forward, that communication is absolutely critical. You know, not just for the stuff that's going to be going down on the road trying to find the inspector. There's still a lot of people that are working on the job representing the owner. They have to know what's going on so they know what to do with their function.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you this, every contractor I've had the pleasure of working with in San Antonio and in Yoakum and all over the state, I don't think I've met one that says that they would not proactively try and reach out to the 1A at the plant. Hey, this is the mix I'm looking for. We're putting it in a miscellaneous area. Is this the lot size that we had agreed upon from the day before? Something that we can reach back out to for some representative from the owner. If it's the district lab or if it's the area office, just to say, hey, we're rolling forward. This is the information we got at the time. This is how we move forward to try and keep the project going. And then, you know, it's going to sound like a terrible plug, but I'm going to do it anyway.
We expect nothing less, Brett.
If
Nothing.
the state is really in a pickle, you know, I would definitely venture to say PaveTex, Bruce, I'm sure you and your firm would be willing to say, hey, look, we got your back. We are ready to help support you if you need to. Even if it's last minute, we need a backup 1B or someone else to try and cover the job. No problem. We don't want to sacrifice a good day's production where the contractor's ready to go. But at that whole time, at the same time, Bruce, you hit the nail on the head. The contractor still got responsibility to make sure that they're into the spec. You know, it's not, hey, we don't have an inspector out here. Let's just go hog wild. We don't really need to do roller patterns or anything else. Yeah. That stuff will only bite everybody in the keister. And that's why I say I feel very blessed that I haven't really run into a situation like that, where you expect where a contractor would just go wild like that.
Mm-hmm. I think Jose hit that one on the head. As a contractor, your reputation is on the line with that. So you want to provide that. And every road that I know y'all are making over there, Jose, y'all want an award-winning project. And so there's no day off if you want an award-winning project.
Oh, yeah, I mean, because if something happens, they're going to say, well, Reece already did this job. I mean, we don't want our names out there, you know. We want people to say, well, this is the best road out here, you know. We're going to have quality mix out there regardless inspectors there or not.
Yeah.
Good deal.
Okay, can we pull up the next question?
Yes, sir.
Jim?
There you go.
Thank you. This is a hot topic. The specification has very specific turnaround times for test results. How do you make sure that all your reporting fits in those timeframes? We hear a lot out there where tests aren't getting done within the timeframes and those type of scenarios. How's a way we can make sure it gets done in time?
So on, okay, well, I'll start it. Really what we're looking at, what we expect from all of our 1A guys is to turn those in before they even leave the plant. And that's not to say that happens comprehensively everywhere. There's definitely issues that you have to try and contend with. One of them is on some plants, remote areas where you don't even have Wi-Fi access or access to the internet. Situations like that, we're like, look, we're either going to get you a spot or go to the closest McDonald's and send it to us at the end of the day if we need to. There are situations where, depending what the owner or the client really wants to have, in some districts, they only want to have TXDOT's results, none of the contractor stuff. Other people want contractor and TXDOT stuff at the same time. So what we have to set up on our side is a regimented checklist on what the expectations are for each one of the clients on how they want it delivered. But by far and large, the things that are standard go-bys are, we always copy the contractor and those results so they know as soon as the owner does. And we're always trying to make sure that we're getting those results to the client by the end of the day. I think sometimes the difficulty is with hot mix in particular is how are we sending those results out when we have production but we don't have the cores yet? Should we be sending those out or do we hold on to them? Again, it depends on what the client requires and what the client requests in terms of, do they want us to hold on to it till we get the cores or do we just send in production placement? But by far and large, really what we're looking for on that side is get the mix that day, send out the report that day for the production. On the cores, really what we're pushing for is have those cores sent directly back to the producer's facility underneath good custody samples, so we can test them at that location, since we'll already have somebody there to try and get those results out as quick as possible. The other thing that's critical is making sure that you have good email distribution groups set up, where it's not just going to certain people, that it's going to the inspector on the job, the PM if they need it, the district lab, the contractor, all at the same time.
Because if the contractor's not getting his results timely, that's, how does he make changes and move forward? And that kind of goes back to that partnering and stuff. And I know it's probably not so much with the 1B reporting, but the level 1A or, your soils and those type of things.
And normally what we do for at the end of the day, like Red was saying, we exchange information. And even right after we finish a sublot, we'll exchange information. And that way we're updated if we need to make any sort of changes or anything. And we always like to see Texas information, even without the course. We want to have all that information from the hot mix gradation, AC content, and all that. And that way we can always communicate with our 1B out on the road and tell them, because sometimes, we base our results off TXAPA. So if there's a discrepancy, we can let the road know, hey, there's a discrepancy here. Check out this loads. Grab me a sample from over there from the job site, bring it to the lab. That's why it's always real good to communicate with the QA.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a little part in the reporting responsibilities, part of the specification that people overlook when they're looking at that table that says 24 hours. And I know when I was a contractor, it was wildly frustrating to, at the end of the day, get results to hear sublot 1, sublot 2 was in penalty, or even worse, remove and replace. And so there's a little note. I mean, it's in the first paragraph of reporting responsibilities that either party shall immediately notify the other if it fails to meet specification, there's a pay reduction, or suspension is required. And especially since we've gone to using a super pave press, it's really critical, because you have 2 hours of curing the molds. Then those molds are so big, you've got typically 30 minutes to an hour. Would you agree with that, Jose?
Yes, sir.
Before you weigh them. So 3 hours before you know whether or not you're in good shape or not. So if you're running 300 tons, that's potential for 1,000 tons to be out the gate of that plant or more, and I mean, so those are some of the things we try to teach as far as situational training, as far as the importance of it, and put the dollar value on it with our technicians and inspectors, so they understand that, that guy's probably a little sensitive. If you're not being proactive in communicating that, hey, look, we've got a number here that, that doesn't look good for you, and this is what we've got. And then that communication can start. Maybe they feel like they got both parties agree that they got a core sample. It doesn't change that sample was pulled, but maybe they still got time to communicate that out to the field, to the inspector, so they can look at that area and say, hey, there's no segregation, or it's not too coarse in this area. It looks just like everything else. And so now, when the contractor's going and asking for, hey, can we look at acceptance on this, back to those items, 4, 5, and 6, now the engineer has some information that all parties are in agreement that, or they're disagreeing of whether or not, hey, maybe it was a bad sample. Bad samples happen. They do.
Yep. Absolutely.
Everyone, go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, no, Bruce is absolutely right. Bad samples happen, and it's we're talking even before the show started about trying to make sure, one, you pull good samples, and 2, you split out good samples, and all kinds of bad things can happen to a sample from the truck into the mold, and we need to make sure we do all that well, and we're very diligent and make sure everybody's doing it the same way, because if everyone's doing it differently, man, you're going to see different numbers. And, you know, I think everybody's got a couple stories about that. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, consistency is key. You know, one of the things I heard all of y'all say was communication, and that's going to kind of go into our next question. But before we get to that question, sorry about that, Jim. Kind of led you up there, and then I
Set me up. Set me up.
But before we get to that question, now I made a joke. I totally forgot what my other question was. But I remember. So communication, you know, that's a key thing in this whole process, and we'll get to that question. But with the new kind of direction coming out, where your state representative is going to be in one facility and your contractors in the other, where we used to share the same equipment quite a bit and those type of things. I think communication is going to be even more key in this situation, because there's going to be a tendency to just you separate. There's less partnering, and so I think we need to be able to come together and really partner in that situation once we moved over into those separate labs. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I do, Corey. I think that's something that needs to be talked at, at the very beginning. Everybody get together, and this is not a us against you type situation, and that, people handle challenging situations differently, and it's getting back to the basics, learning that, hey, you know what, like, if somebody's asking you about, did anything go wrong in the test, they're not insulting you. They're not telling you that you're performing the test incorrectly or that you're a bad person. It's a matter of, did we get it right? And that's the most important thing. Did we get it right? And we have an obligation, either work, from the owner side of it and the contractor side, to make sure that we got it right. Did we sample it right? Did we split it down right? Did we test it right? Did we get the right result? That's representative of that material.
Yeah, I know the original question was talking about time frames, but really what Bruce is talking about is, I think, is equally, if not more important, the quality and the accuracy of those results. What the lab's being separated out here in the near future, it adds another facet that a lot of folks haven't had to deal with. It's difference in equipment.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely the quickest and fastest reviews when you're sharing that information side by side with the contractor. But even when things are lining up, what we should be doing is still doing a review on all those results. Are things actually making sense? Regardless of if they're passing, are we starting to trend into an area where things may be of concern that we have to try and address? I think, Bruce, I mean, you really hit the nail on the head. It's going to be a challenge if we're not having that early communication going on.
Because the last thing Jose wants, right? Jose, is at the end of the day, you get the results, because then there was no communication, no partnering throughout the whole day. So changes really was just coming off of your results. And what happens if yours were different?
Yep.
So, hey, Jim, have we got any questions from the audience yet? Or
not yet. Still waiting, but it's been pretty quiet today. But I'm ready to move on when you are, now that you've set me up. So.
Okay, let's go with the next question. So, do you provide any training education for communication? Since we've been talking about communication and that being a key there, if all we had is headbutting all the time, quality is not going to be our outcome. Communication is a must. How do y'all show that as being important in y'all's individual companies? Is there any training, education?
Absolutely,
Corey, we do.
Absolutely. Communication is the most important thing. And as you know, we rely a lot on TXAPA, you all. If it's not me, it'll be Craig Odom that goes to trainings, and then we bring that what we learn and give it to our guys and train them, and show them all the steps that we've learned from y'all to communicate with not only TXAPA, with CNIs out there in the field, but yeah, communication is the biggest important thing out there.
Mm-hmm. Bruce, you were going to share something?
Yeah, Corey, we do. I mean, it's we try to share with them as much situational training as we can, because like I said earlier, when you're talking about 1,000 tons, emotions can get involved in that pretty quick, because you're talking about $50,000-$70,000. And so teaching them to understand that, and to really how they engage that is how their day is going to go, and it takes a lot of practice, because when people's anxiety gets up, when you're talking about a lot of money on one, people's anxiety starts getting up, whether it's from the owner's side, feeling like they're not getting the product that they deserve on the project, or from the contractor side that feels like they've got a quality product that's being improperly judged. And so we do a lot of training there, really. I mean, for that communication standard, showing them, because if you think about the technicians, you have a 1A technician that's at an asphalt plant, if they're working for the owner, that's by themselves. So we call it on an island, right? And if they're on the roadway, they're also on an island. So teaching themselves how to rescue themselves off of that island with that communication standard and using it upward, take the opinions out of it. That is the biggest thing. Get your opinion and your emotion out of that situation, and stick with what is factual information and provide it upward to whoever that chain of command is. If you're an inspector in the field, up to the chief inspector, allow him to communicate that upward to the construction manager, and wait for them to give you direction back. And, and with the contractor, it's, hey, this is my understanding. Corey, and I got that from you, by the way, when we had the professional service committee, and we were talking about a specification. There was a discussion on what that spec meant, and you said, I think we need to change that. There should never be an idea of an interpretation of the spec. It should always be the understanding. And I think that's a great way to look at it. Brett?
Yeah, so those are all really good points. When so when I first started at PaveTex, this is the adage that Dale Rand gave me. He said, "Look, Haggerty, this is what's going to happen. Every morning we're going to give you a Rubik's cube, and it's going to be real messed up. And this is going to represent just dispatch. You got to have John Doe go over there, Jane Doe go over there. You got to make sure that they can cover this and this and this. So at the end of the day, your Rubik's cube is going to look great. And the next morning you're going to come in, and it's going to be all messed up again, and you got to do it all over again, because that's the nature of our business. It changes all the time, and you have to be able to adapt and have that communication, because things will change. So let me give you an example.
I just got to say, Dale Rand is a brilliant man with that analogy.
All right, man. I totally understand this now.
Great job calling your boss out on that.
So it's exactly what y'all have been talking about this whole time. Trying to keep it at the lowest level possible is really important to keep the job moving well, to changes when you need to quickly. But if we don't know what's going on, or they don't know who to get in contact with, things get messed up real quick. Let me give you an example. Unfortunately, it happens. Not on purpose. There are times when things leak in. When our 1A at the plant doesn't have the contact number for the 1B, or they don't call the 1B, things get messed up real quick. Because things change. Hey, you know what? We weren't actually doing exempt production today. We were doing lot production. And you only pulled one sample. Shit, man. That whole day is now messed up because we're missing samples. We messed up because we didn't have that good communication going on at the same time.
Yep.
Keep it at that lowest level is critical, and making sure that our guys understand who to contact every day is absolutely critical. So how do we make it's tough because it's so dynamic. We do have checklists, just in terms of general things that each technician should be doing on the job. And we try to keep up with the daily dispatch, where the points of contact are, because they could change day to day. Sometimes things do slip through. But ideally, we're able to try and keep that constant communication going on all the time, as centralized as possible.
Good points.
Yes, great points. Jim, I know one of the things that Jose was kind of alluding to different trainings that we've had, and we've done specification education. Another thing that we offer on our webpage is the all hands.
Yes.
And that goes into daily debriefs and those type of things. You want to share a little bit about the all hands program and where people can find that?
Yeah, if you go, she caught me, set me up again, Josie. If you go to texasasphalt.org and it should be under resources and it should be under all hands. If you have any trouble, just let us know and we'll get you there. But there's a whole series of slides and web pages that go through a lot of what these guys are talking about today. So there's information about exchanging phone numbers, at least having a list of phone numbers that can be exchanged. We've talked about setting up group emails or group texts for particular projects. So, when a piece of information gets sent, it gets sent out to everybody. Everybody gets it all at the same time. You get a test result, it shoots out. There's information on there on what do you do? The things that Bruce was talking about, kind of situational problems is, hey, what are we going to do when it rains? Okay, what are we're going to do when we're milling and we hit something or we hit the base? What are we going to do when we get a hot load? If you have all these questions answered ahead of time, Brett was talking about, it's just a matter of just execution. It's not a matter of argument. It's not a matter of emotion. It's like, yeah, we talked about that. This is what we're going to do. This is plan B or plan C. So by having that communication done up ahead of time, that's the whole purpose. The all hands also has information about there's additional resources in there, and a big one. And if Chuck was on today, we'd all be talking about debriefing daily. And I think Jose talked about that early, about taking some time at the end of the shift to sit down or socially distance or across the tailgate or whatever you got to do to kind of review the day. Do we have all our tests? How many tons did we get? Do we have all the tickets? Do we know what square yardage was laid today? Do we any information? How did it look? Were there any, did the mat look okay? How are the segregation profiles? Any and all things that are done on the project. If you discuss those things every day and then go take a ride on the project, by the time you're ready to hit hit the job the next day, you guys are as prepared as you possibly can be to have a good day and have an award-winning day, if you want to talk about it from that perspective, about laying some really good asphalt. If nobody's talking, if nobody's sharing, like literally you are on islands. And so we want to bridge the island. We want to pave between the islands with asphalt and make it a smooth path, because we got to be able to do this. We're looking for quality. We're looking for safety. And the only way to do that is to do it. We've got a lot of people involved, a lot of mix being laid. We got to talk about it. So the all hands is an opportunity that's kind of in a capsule that can be used to kind of help start the discussion and maintain the discussion throughout the course of the project.
Jim, I know I put you on the spot there and threw a curveball at you, but like always, you always answer and hit the home run. So thanks for that. We're going to get to the bonus question, Jim. We're just going to skip straight to the bonus question since we're running out of some time here. Because when I read Brett the bonus question, his eyes lit up earlier. So you were king. I think he lit up because he was still getting, right, Jose? His eyes did get a little bigger when we first got on.
They're up there now. King for the day, Brett. Dale's out of town, so you're king.
You're king for the day, and you can make one change to our current system. What do you make and why to the QCQA program? And whoever wants to go first can go first. The excited kid in the room doesn't have to go first.
We are in the bonus round, so.
Oh man! So I think you guys are thinking that my mind was in the gutter, and it really wasn't. Man, my needs are really trivial. I was thinking, man, I have like 5 Whoppers. No. So this is the deal. This is the deal. For this type of situation, if it had to deal with like a 1B guy, and the state of the road wasn't an issue, you know what I think I do? I would probably look at telling, I want every single one of the guys that's working for the contractor, I want you to switch your role. I want you to, all of those guys, I want them to become the QA, and I want all the QA guys to jump up, and I want them to be working on the contractor side. And the reason why I say that is because like all the stuff that Jose is talking about, all the stuff that Bruce is talking about, I mean, that's really experience-based information, and it's great. And the only way you get to it is being in those situations where you're exposed to it, and you understand it. So if I was able to switch everybody around, time, okay, now you got to go sit in John Doe's shoes for the day and figure out how hard it is to actually try and operate a laydown machine and keep it running and keep track of the roller and keep track of the trucks and the heat and the temperature, and then vice versa. For the producers guys, maybe they're exposed, maybe they're not, to understand why are they testing this stuff. I mean, are they just because the spec says, or how can they use it to help them out on the job? Yeah.
Good answer.
And I totally agree. I mean, with Brett, I mean, it's not about how much experience you have and all that. It's just about understanding out there in the field, because, you know, it's not a perfect world out there. You always have, it might be windy, it might be sunny, it's not a perfect out there. So understanding would be the major issue out there for everybody.
Bruce, king for the day.
Yeah, I think for me, I think if we could get some OJT and really just a small amount, just to cover that technician time, where, you know, just as people have business decisions, if they got 200 tons up in the silo and there's rain on the way, do you ship it or not? Do you try to get it there? You know, at some point, you know, you have to make sure that technician is billable. And, you know, and sometimes that can come with some hard lumps along the way if you're not really really have the ability to safeguard him against the challenging times. So, you know, for me, I'd love to see some OJT, and that's kind of a selfish point of it. And maybe it's just, you know, to at the bare minimum, it covers the technician's costs for up to like 6 months. I'd like to see these guys. You know, 6 months used to be the rule of thumb.
Mm-hmm.
You know, back in the 90s, 6 months before you turn a guy loose, and you could feel pretty confident that within 6 months they understood, hey, this is meaningful to communicate upward to this individual. This is a lateral communication, and you know, I'd like to see that. I'd love to see that.
Thank you. Jim can back me up on this, but Harold said I can never be king of the day, so I don't even get an answer to this question. But if I did have to have one, it would be training.
This is true.
I think we need more training and more education so we can get that more experienced person out there. I think that would make a huge impact in there. But did you have something to add on that, Jim?
Well, you didn't ask if I wanted to be king for a day, but
Jim, if you could be king for the day, Jim, what would you do?
I'd shave your beard off. No.
What's under this beard has not seen the light of day probably in about 8 years.
Oh, okay.
So.
There we go. You know, I would just encourage everybody just to just work on the communication thing. I mean, we talked about it in almost every one of these questions. Every one of these guys online is doing it every day, and they've been around a long time. And you know what we keep coming back to? We keep coming back to communicating. And you know, and Bruce hit it. You know, get the ego out of the way, get the emotion out of the way. We all have one. You know, we're all based on our life is based on some of our experiences. But at some point you gotta say, okay, let's put the material up there. Let's put the project ahead of what I think it is. Let's make sure we're doing the right thing for the right reason. And so that I would just encourage everybody to communicate. That's not a not a real big ask, but it's something I think everybody knows is just so very, very important.
Thank you, Jim. Before we head out, I just want to thank you, Bruce, Brett, and Jose for taking the time and joining us and sharing your insight and perspective on these different topics. Jim, did anyone put in the chat when they were certified?
We did not. We did not.
No?
Did not.
No hat. Okay, so I'm going to send one of you three guys.
I wanted to let you know because Harold at lunch said, I asked him about this and he said you were going to give a hat away, and he goes, he still got hats? And so he went over and he found your secret stash. So there are no more hats. So just to let you know that it's a good thing because Harold's got all your hats. So
well, I have one more.
Okay.
So
all right.
Brett,
all good.
Bruce, who was certified first and what level? Brett, you're the young one, I think. So you're probably not going to win.
1A 2005.
I'm just going to say Brown Trail Fisher.
Brown Trail, okay. Jose, did you ever go to Brown? Lane?
No, sir.
Bruce, the hat is yours. So, Brown,
There you go.
the Brown was it Brown Lane? I believe that was kind of the ghetto of
Brown Lane, yeah.
So
yeah, it was it's what we used to call the whorehouse over there. It was hard.
So
people were crying.
Thank you guys. Bruce, I'll send you that hat. But Jim, if you want to wrap us up and take us out. All
right, very good. Hey, thank you guys so much for participating today. This information will be placed up on our YouTube channel probably pretty quick, hopefully maybe by the end of the day or by the beginning of tomorrow. Remember, you will get a link to those programs on our website. And if you subscribe to our program or subscribe to our channel and hit the notification button, you will get an immediate notification when that video is up there. And what we're doing now is we're actually breaking the video down by parts. So this will actually be broken down by question. So you can go through and you don't have to listen necessarily to the whole hour, but you can listen to different parts and different questions as we go along. So big thanks to everybody today. Big thanks to you for participating today. Glad to have you guys here. Glad to have you guys when you rewatch this on YouTube and our webpage. We are continuing trying to make strides forward to improve quality, improve education, improve communication, and make good asphalt. So in the meantime, hey, we got to keep fighting this COVID thing. So you do what you got to do to fight it out. Wear your mask, wash your hands, do what you got to do, and be safe out there. Ever forward. God bless, and we'll see you real soon. Next week is there we go. Next week is a Q&A with Harold Mullen, Gino Carrier, and myself. We're taking Thanksgiving off. We've got 2 shows in December. One is our outgoing President Gino Carrier. We're giving us a year review, which should be 2020 was certainly their year to review. And then our incoming president, Craig Odom, will be giving us an update on what we expect to see in 2021. So in the meantime, everybody be safe, take care, and look forward to seeing y'all very, very soon.